So I have some experience with the 12 steps. I've worked in substance abuse for most of my adult life, and early in my career, it was a regular thing that we had to take whoever was getting residential treatment. We had to drive them to a 12-step meeting, and it was done on a everyday basis. So, this is going to be a discussion on AA, the Big Book Study, an AA meeting, and a group called Recovery Alive. One of the assumptions that I had about the 12-step meetings was about the chips. My assumption was is that you didn't get a real metal chip until you were like a year. But in the meeting, they had real metal chips early in recovery. I want to say like 30 days. I don't remember exactly. In the AA meeting, the majority of the people were older males. There was a few in there that were younger. One had a monitor on his leg, and in both meetings there was an average of maybe two women, and both of them were older. I think the meeting that I attended was a pretty stable meeting. Like, they had been meeting together for a while. They had a long history. It was older gentlemen. On both times, the structure was the same. They had a select pieces of literature that they read, 12 steps, 12 traditions, and there was some other literature they read too. And everybody took turns reading before the meeting started. And in the Big Book Study, they went to page 20 in the big book. Everybody took turns reading, and after every reading in that book, there was a open discussion about it. And the 12-step meeting itself, they picked a topic, and the topic was on the Serenity Prayer. And one of the things that I learned that they talked about in there is the Serenity Prayer just came to AA in the 1940s, and the version that we see that's, I guess, 3 different parts to it, that's not the original version. The original version is very long, and I didn't know that. After each meeting, when they were doing the serenity, before they did the serenity prayer, somebody said, if there's anybody here that is thinking about drinking, is wanting to drink, or needing a drink, please meet with somebody after the meeting, which I thought was really kind of neat. Everybody was warm and inviting. And somebody that I work with told me that when I went to the AA meeting, that when I checked in, because I'm not an alcoholic, that they said that I would need to say that I'm a supporter. So at the end of the meeting, a few people came up to me with the assumption that somebody that I loved, like my husband, was an alcoholic. I thought going into it too, there was going to be a lot of you don't belong here kind of vibes that I would get, but it was very welcoming. Almost to some point made me feel a little bit envious that these guys had such a tight connection between all of them. They were joking, they had long-standing jokes with each other, and everybody kind of laughed. So it kind of told me that as a group, they all were kind of just tightly niched. At the end of the AA meeting is when they gave their chips out. Now the Recovery Alive meeting, that's a different ball game. That is, they have a potluck, they have music. It's more resembling like a church service, and they give out chips before everybody breaks off. And it's not focused on alcohol, drugs, or a substance, or even a processing addiction. It's more focused on habits, hurts, and hangups. So the demographics are much different. In this meeting, you might find mothers with children that are addicts or adult children. You might find spouses that have somebody that's addicted to something. Could be a sex addiction, could be gambling, could even be alcohol. And you will also find addicts. After they give out the chips, everybody goes into their own group to process their habits, hurts, and hangups. And this group is also tightly niched, like the AA group, but with the addition of they are also embraced or under the umbrella of the church. So many people are active in the church or become active in the church as a result of going to the meeting. So I found 2 academic journals that were related to the counseling on the 12-step meeting. One of them was by Worley. written in 2012, and it talked about the mediation relations between the 12 step depression substance use patients with comorbid substance dependence and major depression. In this study, he discovered that if people went to a 12 step meeting, they had a great decrease in their alcohol or substance use. And while attending counseling, they found the 12 steps as a great benefit to reduce the overall symptoms of substance use. And another study by Fioretine on counseling frequency and the effectiveness of outpatient treatment, revisiting the conclusion that more is better. Written in 2001, they concluded that because of the 12 step meetings, there was a much larger cognitive shift that had happened between going to counseling and the 12 step meetings. The counseling helped with the cognitive shift or the change, the stage of change they were in. But going to the meeting made them remember what the consequences of using were and what the overall consequences or benefits of not using over the lifeline. In my kind of reflection, I think that the 12 steps does support the journey of recovery in a much different way than counseling or treatment would, because there is that connection there. They can relate to each other and they share the common thread of, as they talked about, as selfishness and how it's wreaked havoc on their family and how they need each other and that they all understand each other. And with the counseling, a lot of times you don't get that bigger picture of everything that's happened. You get one report, like when somebody sits behind your desk, but you don't get the bigger scope of things like you would in a 12 step meeting.